Welcome to the World Philosophy and Religion podcast with Dr. Marc Gafni. Today, we are talking about the 5 truths of life to thrive in a world on fire. We can all see with our own eyes today all of the different vectors of problems going on planet Earth. And the question is, how do you and I ground ourselves, become clear enough, and become powerful enough to respond? So today, Dr. Marc Gafni is going to talk about 5 big pieces. Number 1 is how to experience the full truth of reality. How can you experience both the immense suffering and the immense beauty of life and hold both of those at the same time? Second, you're going to learn about how you are intended. You were created by reality and science proves it. Third, we're going to talk about role mate, soulmate, and whole mate. This is a practical way to experience your own evolution in relationships, not just relationships to friends, family, lovers, but also to reality itself. Fourth, we're going to talk about going from my side to going to God's side and how to start to see reality through God's eyes. Finally, we're going to talk about why we close our hearts when we see suffering in the world and the only way to open our hearts back up. All of that is coming to you in this episode, so I hope you enjoy this episode with Dr. Marc Gafni.
First, what I want to do is I want to just spend 2 minutes witnessing. Then I want to try and take 10 steps with you to try and understand, how do we live in this? How do we actually thrive in this? How do we thrive in our interior? How do we hold the unbearable nature of it all while at the same moment holding the unbearable joy of it all? How do we hold it together? How do we hold the unbearable joy of simply being alive together in this moment? How do we hold the unbearable joy and dignity of purpose, of responsibility, of a capacity to respond, of realizing that we have a verse to contribute, right? That can actually change the essential plot line of reality at this moment in history. So to contribute a verse is what we need to do at this moment. And that verse needs to be a new story of value, and why a new story of value actually can change. I want to talk about all that, but I want to talk mostly about how you and I this week go through our week. But as an example, as a model for what it means to become Homo Amor, what it means to relate to this kind of moments. But I want to spend, a minute just on witnessing. So David, right, you've got clips, bring us into kind of, right, of witnessing.
In 2014, a wave of acid attacks terrorized women across Iran. Women were targeted for not covering their faces. Marzia Ebrahimi was only 25 years old when acid was thrown into her face for violating the strict dress code imposed on Iranian women. When they ask why you are against the Islamic Republic of Iran, show them this picture.
Okay. So I want to juxtapose that. Now stay with me. I'm going to show one more video, right? David, this is the cell video. I want to show one more video. Okay, so you've got that. You've got we just had a moment of participating in the pain. We call this in the lineage of Solomon, participating in the pain of God in exile, of the goddess in exile, of she in exile, participating in the pain of value in exile, right? Participating in the pain of goodness in exile. And this is Iran. This is an innocent family in Germany killed by an Allied bomb, which the force of necessity demands because Hitler has to be defeated. But a beautiful family, right, in Germany is blown to smithereens, right, by the Allied bombs. And this is for that family in Germany, or that family in Gaza, in a precise similar circumstance to that family in Germany, or at least a roughly parallel circumstance. And this is for that family in the Ukraine. And this is for that Russian soldier who's a good boy, who somehow got conscripted into the army and doesn't know what he's doing in Ukraine, and how did he even get there? This is for Sudan. 90,000 people slaughtered in Sudan by Islamic fundamentalist butchery. Not Islamic butchery, Islamic fundamentalist butchery. Right? Wow. Right? So this is to hold all of that. Because for the first time, this has happened forever in the world. But now we see it. Now we know it. Now it's not local. Now we're witnesses. We know more. We see more. We understand more. We understand more, not intellectually. We understand in the feeling tone of our body. There's no place to turn away. Right? And that's the nature of the media structure, of the immersive environment, is that only God, a generation ago, actually would physically see the amount of suffering that the average human being, if they don't turn away, has available to see today. Does everyone get that sentence? It's never been true. The level of witness has never been true. The level of witness is unimaginable, which means that to turn away from witness is the death of our humanity. So how do I not turn away from witness? How do I actually stay human, but also stay alive and enjoy? And in the utter creative tension and delight in goodness and pleasure of being alive, how do I hold those together? How do I act? Does everyone understand the koan? And paradoxically and not accidentally, at the very same moment where we are witness in a way that's never been true before. There's no moment when the witnesses are gone. We have now a God's eye view. Not quite a God's eye view. God in the same moment, or the infinite intimate of reality, the personal eye of reality that's beneath and beyond time, sees backwards and forwards in time in every instant. Nonetheless, we have the beginning of this God's eye view. We have this capacity to see reality in what one erotic mystic called, Abraham Cook, he called in one encompassing glance. And he writes, I've got the text here right before me. He writes that in order to repair the world, in order to fix the world, in order to heal and transform the world, I need to be able to view the world. I need to be able to see the world in one encompassing glance. I need to see it all at one time. In order to, the nature of the world, in order to heal, I'm reading a text now, right, from Cook's mystical diary called The Mists of Purity on page 69 that he wrote to himself and was published after he died. And he lives at the beginning, the end of the 19th into the 20th century, dies in 1938. He writes in his mystical diary called Arpile Tohar, The Mists of Purity, he writes, in order to heal the world, And I need to see the nature of each particular creature. I need to see the nature of human history. I need to see the history of each individual person and his life story. All of this must be scanned in my mind in one encompassing glance as one content with different verses and different chapters. And then there is a mind flash, an explosive mind flash, which leads directly to the transformation. It's incredible text. I need to be able to see in some sense in one encompassing glance. Okay. So I want to look at a second video. We just saw three just flashes, three images, three witnessing. So I want to do another witness. I'm going to do another witness. And we're going to go and we're just going to look at what's happening literally inside of you and inside of me and inside of every one of the perpetrators and every one of the apex predators and every one of the victims, the oppressed, the brutalized, the raped, the tortured, the killed. What's happening in all of that and in all of them, what is actually happening in that which needs to be witnessed, but is not immediately available to the naked eye. But once we start deploying the instrumentation of sacred science, we begin to see it more clearly than ever before. So David, take us inside. Yeah. That was a cell. 37.2 trillion cells living inside of you and inside of me and inside of every victim and inside of every perpetrator, right? The cell itself, right, is filled with, animated by desire. And the desire is the desire for contact. And it's for contact that creates more wholeness. And that clarified desire for contact in a healthy cell is a desire for contact that takes into account the fullness of the irreducible uniqueness of the particular cellular structure, the particular intimate configuration, which is that cell. And that desire for value is unique. It's an utterly unique configuration of desire. I've talked about autocatalytic self-replicating peptides before, which are core in the moment of abiogenesis as life is created on the planet, the movement from matter to life. But if you look at autocatalytic self-replicating peptides, right, which are core to the inception of life and also core in the inception of every individual life and every individual human life in a very particular way. I'm going to not do all the biology here, but if you look at that carefully, right? If you look at it really carefully, let's see if we can kind of think here, okay? If you look at that really carefully, what you actually see is, okay, stay with me. You see that there's this unimaginable process of personal desire. It's unique and personal. It's not generic. It's not a generic mechanical system, what we just saw, but every complete cellular structure has a cellular print, right, which is based on a deeper macromolecular print. It's irreducibly unique. And so there's actually, think about the nature of your own desire, of your own chemistry between you and other people. So that chemistry is the same force, the same feeling tone of molecular chemistry and then organic biochemistry, living chemistry, and the living chemistry that happens within a cellular structure within you, me, not generally, not generically, not mechanically, but you are literally a unique configuration of music, a unique melody that was literally ontologically, scientifically validated. That's what we're writing about. That's what science is actually saying when you get beneath the jargon. Actually, science displays, reveals, discloses the irreducible, unique desire of the infinite intimate, which actually recognizes you, which actually holds you, which needs you, which literally chooses you, which not just loves you, but just is infatuated. Love adores you, pours desperate desire into you, which desires you and which needs you. But that's actually literally needs you. You actually have a direct experience of the infinite intimate turning its attention to you in order to manifest you. And if you actually study biochemistry and then the cellular structure and its irreducible uniqueness and what's actually happening in each cell and how each cell is aware of every other cell. Each cell is its own unique dance of desire, fulfilling its own irreducibly unique destiny and destination, even as it's holding a full system awareness and organismic awareness of every other cell. And when that broader sense of each individual cell is not fulfilling a role. Cells don't have, stay with me, a role mate relationship with each other. Does everyone get that? Cells do not have a role mate relationship with each other. They're not just fulfilling their roles. Cells are also not even just in love with each other, although they are. Each cell is a role mate to its other cells that it's interacting with and has deep role mate chemistry with. Each cell is also in love with the cells around it. So there's a soulmate relationship. There's a relational structure of soulmate between cells. But actually, each cell is also a whole mate. Cell actually is aware of the larger whole. And we actually know that each cell participates, is constituted by the quantum world itself, which discloses an enmeshed world of quantum entanglement, which is the realization that once desire has caused contact to take place, contact is never lost. That's what quantum entanglement actually means. It means that actually Einstein was wrong. There is spooky action at a distance, right? It is a magical world. Einstein was like, oh, he couldn't bear. He was part of the quantum revolution, which Bohr starts in 1902. But he wins his Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect, right? For lots of reasons. But one of them was he actually was resisting the movement of quantum. He had a famous dialogue with Bohr. The dialogue was a standoff, but in the end, evidence proved Wheeler actually led, John Archibald Wheeler led the charge, and Einstein was wrong. Quantum entanglement is quantum mechanics is correct. And what it speaks to, what it points to, is a world of unbearable intimacy, of contact, of a movement of eros towards value, of cells that are filled with irreducibly unique desire, and that are not just in love with the cells around them, but are wholemates, right? Have a feeling, a sense of the larger field of desire. Reality is a field of perfect desire. Reality is a field of perfect desire. Wow. Wow, that's happening in every second. So how do we put this together? How do we put those two? Does everyone see the two witnessings we just did? We just did two witnessings. In the first world, the first witnessing is we live in a world of outrageous pain. That's the first witnessing. And the second is we live in a world of outrageous beauty, and truth is beauty and beauty is truth. We live in a world of outrageous beauty, truth. And that beauty truth is animated by eros, desiring value. So we live in a world of outrageous eros, desire for value. We live in a world of outrageous goodness, of the desire to do good. Every cell is for life, is for the value of life. Every cell is for the value of all of life. Every cell participates in the underlying quantum world, and every cell is all in for all life. Every cell is all in for all life, and every human being who is made up of that quantum subatomic world, and then made up of that macromolecular world, and then is constituted by that cellular world, and then is constituted by that organismic world. Every human being contains inside of themselves the knowing that we are in our essential being all in for all life. That's what it means to be a healthy human being. It means to be a wholemate with reality. To be all in for all life. All in for all life. We are coded with the desire, which is the nature of our interior gnosis, which is what it means to be a sane human being. To be a sane human being is to know that I am an irreducible, unique expression of life that has a particular role to play, that is madly in love, ensouled, soulmate with all of the rest of life, and that can feel, that both participates in the whole. I participate in the whole. But if you actually look at the texts of the interior sciences, what enlightenment means to participate in the whole and to actually contain the whole within me. That's actually the two demarcating characteristics of enlightenment, is to know, A, I'm not separate from the whole. I've got a unique contribution to the whole. B, so that's A and B. That's the first component, Roman numeral 1, A and B. And then 2, Roman numeral 2, actually in some fundamental sense, the whole actually lives inside of me, right? And if you look at Bohm's work on the holographic principle, it's about this. We're not going to do a deep dive in the science now. There's a very good book in 1981, which my dear friend and colleague and beloved partner in crime, the beautiful, really stunning integral philosopher Ken Wilber, edited a book called The Holographic Principle in 1981. It's an important book. It's a good take on the holographic principle, or think about it in terms of fractals. I am a fractal of reality, and that is the exteriorization of an interior truth that I actually have, which is, oh my God, it's all inside of me. Which is why I fight for my own survival. My fight for my own survival is not just an egocentric, petty kind of reduction and a kind of getting lost in a kind of opaqueness to reality. I fight for my own survival because I have this intuitive knowing that within me is everything. Huh. Wow. That's also true.
I hope you're enjoying this deep study with Dr. Marc Gafni. If you would like to get more involved, there are 3 ways to deepen your study. Number 1, understand that every single Sunday, Dr. Marc Gafni does a free live stream teaching. If you hit the link in the description below this video, you can get email notifications every time we go live. Second, if you would like to really deepen your study of these concepts and also get to study with Dr. Marc Gafni, then we have an online school that you can join. On that online platform, we have 10 self-study courses that you can take at your own pace. And we also do quarterly 3-week live courses with Dr. Marc Gafni, and we do workshops and other great things which you can get by becoming a student of our online school. Hit the link in the description to become a student. It also supports all the work that we're doing here, so please invest in that. Number 3, if you really want to take the full deep dive and get to experience what it's like to sit with a master teacher like Dr. Marc Gafni in person, then we have one event every year where you should be. It is a 5-day long in-person retreat taking place from April 20th to April 24th in Holland, Europe, 2026. It is just 1 month away and we only have a few seats left. So if you would like the opportunity to sit face to face with a master teacher like Dr. Marc Gafni, then this is the time to join. There's also a whole staff of other amazing people who will be there, and you'll get to meet the entire community of people who are studying alongside. It is the most fun deep dive 5-day experience where we're talking about these types of questions that apply to the entire situation on the world today and how we can respond to the root causes. So you should go check out all 3 of these links in the description below, and we hope to see you in every single one. Without further ado, enjoy the rest of this teaching with Dr. Marc Gafni.
That's also true. Can you feel that, everyone? That's also true. So how do you put those 2 realities together? You know, people talk about war crimes. It's hard to talk about war crimes because there is a sense in which war itself is a crime. And there's also a sense in which not to participate in a just war is also a crime. And now stay with me. And I'm not going to address the particulars of this war. That's been addressed in 1,000 places before. You don't need my help in that. If you want to look at one place, one analysis, there's a very, very good analysis that's done regularly by Chaviv Retting-Gur, Retting, second name dash Gur, Gur. He does kind of pretty regular analysis just as kind of the realpolitik of the situation, which is helpful and important if you want to kind of look at realpolitik. Neil Ferguson, right, does kind of pretty good regular analysis, right? Neither of them, neither Chaviv, who's an Israeli, commentator, nor Neil are either Republican or Democrat. They're not aligned along those party lines. So but if you want to look at that's important to look at. There's important things that need to be said now. That's not what I'm trying to, that's not our purpose here in One Mountain. We need to go deeper, right? We need to go deeper. Help me here just energetically. Let's just love each other. And I'm going to see if I can try and, in a few sentences, get to some things that we need to understand, which are these 5 core principles. Okay, so the first principle is we don't turn away. We live in a world of outrageous pain. That's absolutely true. The second principle is we live in a world of outrageous beauty, outrageous truth, outrageous joy. Those cells are filled with joy. The inner experience of a cell is the experience of allurement and purpose. There's an interiority of joy. There's an interiority, they call it in the interior sciences of Kashmir Shaivism, they call it Sat, which is being, Chit, which is consciousness, Ananda, bliss joy, as the interior of reality. So what they're saying is that from the perspective of the interior sciences, is that the inside of reality is being consciousness joy, right? Being consciousness, eros, joy, pleasure, allurement, Ananda. So being, the inside of being is consciousness. Inside of sat is cheat. Inside of cheat is ananda. So the inside of the inside, what the Solomon lineage calls lifnai b'lifnim, on the inside of the inside, which is also called in the lineage the Holy of Holies, which is also called in the lineage umka de umka, the deepest of the deep. So in the deepest of the deep, on the inside of the inside, and the Holy of Holies, pure joy. Pure joy, bliss joy. Bliss joy. There's this kind of bliss joy. That's the cellular structure we just looked at. And yet that cellular structure that bliss joy can't look away from the outrageous pain. So principle 1, we live in a world of outrageous pain. Principle 2, we live in a world of outrageous beauty, truth, goodness, joy, allurement, right? Dazzling gnosis of complexity that's standing and moving towards life. So the principle 3 will be, to be sane is to know reality, is to know the nature of things. That's sanity. That's principle 3. To be sane, you've got to know the nature of things, right? Which means part of principle 3 is you can't turn away. I can't turn away. I can't turn away from the first principle or the second principle. Okay, that's 1, 2, and 3. Now 4. Principle 4 is that I have to have a role mate, a soulmate, and a whole mate relationship to life. Just like a cell has a role mate relationship, has a particular role, a particular function, a particular metabolic destiny that it has to fulfill, right? That's just not poetry. The prose of that is unbearably and unimaginably and stunningly complex. If you begin to look at the folding of proteins, you're just the dazzling cacophony of protein folding. You literally will be drunk with ecstasy. If you're having a trouble late at night and you kind of feel like I got to take a couple of drinks, skip the drinks, read protein folding. Literally, I do that, right? Read protein folding. And you'll be dazzled, or you'll be ripping your clothes off and dancing with joy naked around your room. From the ecstasy, the drunken ecstasy of actually witnessing and seeing what protein folding means, that's literally happening in you, as you, and through you, and all around you, and everyone and everywhere that you interact, which is the matrix and the fabric of where we live. And that is true in every second, never not true. To be insane is not to know that. It's to turn away from that. To be sane is to know reality and to know yourself, to know my identity. If you say, what's your name? What's my name? My name is Terry Nelson. Hey, Betsy, no, it's not Terry. I'm Terry. Betsy's like, Mark's Terry? I'm going to kill myself. Right? I'm going to kill myself. Really? That's like the worst news I ever got in the world. My husband's not Terry. Mark's Terry? That's a horror. So if I think I'm Terry Nelson, I'm out of my mind. And if Terry thinks he's Mark, he's out of his mind. He's crazy. So to know my identity is just to know who I am, what I am, what's my fabric, to know the fabric of my being. It's true in every second. It did not stop being true. Right? That's just the very beginnings. I am living in the joy of that. I am constituted by joy. I am literally atoms and molecules and macromolecules. I am an infinite, beyond quotidian quotient of infinite proportions of cascading cacophonies of joy. That's who I am. That's who I am. And I can't turn away from that. And I'm, as a conscious being, awake and alive, and I'm aware of the outrageous pain. I'm like, can we feel that? So we live in a world of outrageous pain, right? We live in a world of outrageous truth and beauty. Now stay with me. Okay, just go slow. So I can't just have a role mate relationship to life. I can't just have a whole mate relationship to life. I can't just have a soulmate relationship to life. I need, like the cell, to be aware of the whole. Now, what does it mean to be aware of the whole? And I'm going to say something now agonizing. We're ready for agony, but it's true. And it's actually unbearably agonizing, but it's also beautiful. And it's also, you can't live without this knowing. Okay. So to have a whole mate relationship to life is to see with God's eyes. So for that first step, good. I see with God's eyes. So I move from what's called in the great lineages of the perennial philosophies of the interior sciences, I move from mitzidenu, from our perspective, from my perspective, our perspective, to mitzido, to his, her perspective, the divine perspective. That's step one. That capacity, stay with me, this is step two. Step two, that capacity is what I was born for. It changes everything. So one, I move from my side to his side, from our perspective, the human perspective, to the divine perspective. I begin to have a God's eye view of reality. I begin to see with God's eyes. I begin to see with God's eyes. Okay. So two is a very big deal. Two, right, is why should I have to do that? Why should I have to figure out how to see with God's eyes? Okay. Because one of the things we know absolutely about reality is that we are born to transform. We are born to transform. So we are born as learning beings. We learn. And we learn not just to socialize. We learn, we gather information, we gather wisdom. And in the gathering of wisdom, we actually grow, we deepen. And actually, if you check into your life, you understand that every dimension of life, in order to fulfill it, in order to meet it, I need wisdom. I need to grow in wisdom. So I need to kind of go from my default to my potential. I need to go from my fast thinking, which is automatic and habitual and instinctive, unreflective, as Kahneman pointed out, and his Nobel with Simon, his Nobel Prize winning work on fast thinking and slow thinking. I just got the book this week and I've been perusing it a little bit. I got to move to slow thinking, which is reflective, deliberate, careful. I'm thinking, I'm feeling. And in thinking and feeling, I become an artist of my life. I engage as an artist of my life, and I engage in self-creation. So I'm alive in order to self-create. In other words, I am both animal. I participate in the field of animal, in the field of impulse, in the field of instinct. I never leave that behind, but then I clarify, I bring animal together into relationship with human. I become a human being. That's the next big bang, the second big bang to the third big bang. I go from the biosphere to the noosphere, which is the world of becoming human, the world of the depth of human self-reflection, and I self-create. I clarify. I don't just have instincts, but I actually begin to become aware of my instincts. I deepen my instincts. My instincts are just another word for my desire. I clarify my desire. And the process of clarifying my desire and clarifying my needs and then expanding my desire. I don't just desire food. I desire good food. I don't just desire good food. I desire good food eaten slowly where I derive enormous pleasure from. I don't just desire good food for myself. I desire good food for you. I actually feel insufficient. I feel defective. I feel debilitated. I feel degraded if I'm eating good food and you're not eating good food. So I need good food for me. I've got this desire for my good food, and then I have this desire for your good food. So I've expanded my desire. And then the more I have gnosis, the more I know, the more I feel the larger field of reality. I need not food just for me and not just good food for me and not just good physical food instead of, right, not just nourishing food instead of junk food. I need nourishing information instead of junk information because that nourishes me and that grows me. And I need it not just for me, I need it for you. And now I have a desire, right? Not for junk food, but for beautiful food, and not for junk information, but for wisdom. And when I take that into my body, then my body becomes more whole and more healthy. And then I become more potent. I become more powerful and I feel more and I become more poignant. And now I have desire, not just for my whole tribe, but for every human being. And then I wake up about 200 years ago after we read the Romantic poets and I realize, oh, animals really matter. And I go back to those original verses in the old interior sciences that say that we can't be cruel to animals. And then animals participate with me. And so I've got to be also kind. And I want to nourish animals and not have them in factory farms so I can have a piece of lamb chop. But then I move out of my desires, extend, and I realize, oh, I'm carrying the baton for all the previous generations. that actually labored mightily and passed the baton to me. So I now feel them and I feel their desire that's alive and awake in me, because memory is not a memory trace in the brain, as Eric Kandel reminded us, but memory is a living resonance that's actually alive and it's part of the field of reality. And so I feel them awake and alive in me. And I've got to complete their process of becoming because they've handed the baton to me. And then I hear the murmurings of the sacred coming from the future. I feel the murmurings of the sacred coming from the future. And what do? So I respond to that future. I feel that future. I feel those voices, and I've got to actually feel the desire of the future. And I feel thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, trillions of unborn desires moving through me. And so when I act in the world today, in this moment, I act from this place of transformed self. I'm born to be transformed. Does that make sense? I mean, I've got to move from my local surface desires as a dissociated separate self, which is a delusion, an optical delusion of consciousness, to think that, as Einstein reminded us, the notion that I'm this little part separate from the whole is an optical delusion of consciousness, and I need to actually widen my circle of eros value, right, to include every human being and every animal and actually all of reality. And then I've got to move backwards and forwards in time and realize that no one's outside of the circle, and that cellular process of life, which is all in for all life, lives in every victim and in every predator. So the notion of victim and predator is a violation of the very structure of reality. And I have to act for the whole. And the whole, I've got to be a whole mate. I can't just be in love with those around me. I've got to be a whole mate backwards and forwards in time. Which means that there are tragic moments where war is necessary. Right? That's insane. Where I'm willing to sacrifice my life now for the sake of the whole. Backwards and forwards in time. That is tragic. That is horrific. That's a violation. And we need to get desperately to that time when we beat our swords, right, into plowshares. We're going to, says Isaiah, we're going to beat the tools of war. What is a missile? A missile is a violation at its very core. What's a bullet at its very core? What's a ballistic missile? They're violations of the sacred at their very core. And yet we live in a world that we can't allow Hitler to win World War II. Not a possibility. We can't adopt Gandhi's advice that we talked about 3 weeks ago. Let me be a pacifist. He says, he writes to London and to Churchill, let them slaughter you. No, we can't do that. Because we actually feel the whole. We feel backwards and forwards in time. 3, and I know that it's not over when it's over. I know, as Eddie Hilsum knew, that my job in life is to actually stand with God, because God needs to see through my eyes as I see through God's eyes. And I know that at the moment when I close my eyes open again. And I know that every victim is not vanquished, but opens their eyes into a new victory. But I can't let that become a pre-tragic, regressive fundamentalist go commit suicide murder. I'll be embraced by 70 virgins in heaven, not a version of that. I need to actually embrace and understand the utter pain and abject existential anguish of death. And yet at the same time, in a post-tragic way, know that there's a larger continuity of consciousness. Not to create a death cult, but to know that actually death is a night between 2 days. I have to know that. I have to know that I can't look at the world. And I actually know that the world is just, and that actually there is karma, and that actually there is an ultimate setting right of reality over deep time. And I know that this dimension of reality is not the only dimension of reality. The notion that reality is unidimensional is reductive materialist dogma. The amount of information we have, and this Aldous Huxley was right about. He knew this 100 years ago. The amount of information we have, empirical information that tells us about the continuity of consciousness, that tells us about past, present, and future, that allows us to go into the eternal now and to get underneath the temporal flow and to feel the breath of eternity. And the breath of eternity takes me back into this realization of past, present, and future. The amount of information we have that tells us that actually it's not over when it's over. The amount of information we have that tells us that actually we're part of a larger weave and a larger story. And there is a circular movement which is spiraling towards wholeness, which is all in for all life, not just globally, but galactically, and that it all matters and there's nothing that doesn't matter. All that information is available to us. I've got to hold all of that. Does that make sense, everyone? I've got to hold all of that. So from that place, I realize, oh, I need to move from my side to God's side. I need to see the widest perspective and see the most local perspective right in front of me. Okay, so now go a couple more, like last step, but there's got a couple of subsets in the last step, but here we go. So now let's see if we can put it together. So one, ready? Let's put it all together. So what do we know? Are we together? So we live in a world of outrageous pain. I'm just going to find the chat box. Let's put it together. We live in a world of outrageous pain. Okay, we got that. That's one. Okay, we live in a world of outrageous pain. We live in a world of outrageous beauty. You with me? We live in a world of outrageous pain. We live in a world of outrageous beauty. Okay, now I've got to move from my side to God's side. I've got to take a God's eye view. I've got to step into the eternal now and feel past, present, and future. Feel all future and all past generations. Feel every human being on the planet. To go from an egocentric to my whole tribe, ethnocentric, to a world-centric, every human being, to cosmocentric, every animal, all of life. I'm all in for all life. And then I move backwards and forwards in time. I am the evolutionary impulse of this global system, and I move and I become galactic. I move from God's side, from my side to God's side. I have a God's eye view. And so what do I say as a God's eye view? What is the God's eye view said? What is the divine word? Right? What is the prophecy? What is the invitation? We live in a world of outrageous pain. The only response, we live in a world of outrageous beauty. We live in a world of outrageous truth, beauty. So give me the next sentence. And the only response to outrageous pain and the only response to outrageous beauty is outrageous love. But outrageous love is not human love letters. It's not love as a social construct. It is the outrageous love, eros, value that courses through all of reality. That is the evolutionary spiral that drives and animates reality from matter, right, to life, to the depth of the self-reflective human mind, and then allows the human mind to transform and to literally move from our side to God's side. So I literally become Metatron, I become a divine miniature, and I act literally in partnership with the divine, right, to heal and transform reality. That's outrageous love. Outrageous love is not mere human sentiment. That's what we mean. That's what this means. We've been talking about this for 12 years, 15 years. Right? Outrageous love is not mere human sentiment. Outrageous love is not the heart of the world itself, as in the human world. Outrageous love is the heart of existence itself. Isn't that gorgeous? Outrageous love is not mere human sentiment. It's the heart of existence itself. It's the love that moves all the galaxies. All right? So what does an outrageous lover do? All of a sudden it begins to make sense. These words, they're not words, they're everything. What does an outrageous lover do? An outrageous lover commits outrageous acts of love. Good? That's what an outrageous lover does. An outrageous lover commits outrageous acts of love. An outrageous lover, of course, distinguishes between boundaries that should be kept and honored, because that's outrageous love. To keep the boundary is outrageous love. And boundaries that should be broken and exploded, because to break the boundary, right, the boundary of contraction, the boundary of smallness, the boundary of egocentric consciousness, the boundary of predator and victim, as if there's some fundamental distinction of us, them, where we're on the inside and you're on the outside, that boundary needs to be exploded. We break all the boundaries that should be broken, and we live in a no boundary consciousness of outrageous love in which no one's outside the circle. We commit outrageous acts of love. Okay, now, 4, which outrageous acts of love should we commit? We should commit the outrageous acts of love that are a function of my unique self. My unique self, my unique gift. My unique self is not, oh, what makes me feel good, what makes me feel right. No, my unique self is my unique devotion to all of reality that comes from my unique configuration of desire. My desire and devotion to make the world more whole, more beautiful, more good, more true. The artist that self-creates and wants to recreate reality in participation with the divine, right? That's my unique self, my unique devotion, right? Unique self is not a kind of Myers-Briggs test. It's my unique desire devotion. Now, and here we come to the end, but it's the crux of the whole thing. It's where I wanted to get. So why don't we do that? Why aren't we committing our outrageous acts of love? Well, because A, we don't know what our unique selves are. We've forgotten that we're unique selves. My unique self is not a separate self. It's not a Myers-Briggs test. It is my realization that I'm a whole mate to reality. It's my unique expression of the field of allurement, of the field of the whole. It's my unique desire. It's my unique gift. But there's a deeper reason. We don't actually believe that committing our outrageous acts of love, we're just overwhelmed. I open the news, I'm overwhelmed. How can I make a difference? How can I fix the whole thing? And how can I change it? And in that overwhelm, we turn away. And that's what we said in the beginning, our first principle, I can't turn away. I turn away both from the utter beauty of the world, and I turn away from the horror, from the pain, from the violation. So how do I not turn away? So I not turn away very simply. I laugh at that voice that says it's mine to fix the whole thing by myself. It's not mine to fix the whole thing by myself. That's the devil. That's the voice of the devil. The devil has a voice. The voice of the devil says, fix the whole thing yourself. And then the devil collapses you, if you will. When I say the devil, I mean the ontological devil, the metaphoric devil, the literary devil, however Shakespeare might have said it. You got to do the whole thing. No, you don't. No, what do I need to do? I need to actually identify, how can I participate? What's mine to do? How do I participate? Not just myself, but in a unique self symphony to actually commit my outrageous act of love, right? Which is in my unique circle of intimacy and influence, right? With those around me playing their complementary instruments, the unique self symphony, in order to create that piece of music, that note that's mine to create, to contribute a verse. That's mine to do. And I may be writing it, but often I'm not. Maybe I'm editing it. Maybe I'm helping create a context for it. It doesn't matter what I'm doing in it, but I'm part of a unique self symphony, and I have an outrageous act of love to commit. Now, here's the thing. Why do we close our hearts? Why do we turn away? We turn away because the gap between our ability to feel the pain and our ability to heal the pain is too great. We turn away because the gap between our ability to feel the pain and our ability to heal the pain is too great. So in that gap, I close my heart. So how do I open my heart? I open my heart by closing the gap. Does that make sense? I open my heart by closing the gap. How do I close the gap? I throw off from myself the need, the responsibility to fix the whole thing. I don't have to fix the whole thing, but I've got to blow away what's mine to do, and I've got to amplify what's mine to do. What's mine to do is not just my little thing in the list. I'm not a clerk in this game. I am God's chief of staff. We are together, my friend. We are in Her Majesty's Secret Service. We are secret agents in Her Majesty's Secret Service. That's who we are. We are in the Fellowship of the Ring, and the Fellowship of the Ring is there, right, to counter the slow defeat that will destroy Middle Earth. That's Tolkien's phrase. Long, slow defeat of the win-lose metrics and the exponential technologies that will create an immersive environment that either kills humanity or causes the death of our humanity. We're going to stand against that. We are in Her Majesty's Secret Service. We are secret agents in Her Majesty. She in her secret service. It's ours to do. And we come together as a unique self-symphony. And we play our instruments. And what's ours to do is we are going to write a new story of value. And we're going to fund a new story of value. And we're going to address every major issue that needs to be addressed. And there's about 15 of them. We're going to crack through together, loving each other, each holding. And sometimes some of us will carry the ring, and others will carry those who are carrying the ring. We all have a different, and together we'll all carry it together as a unique self-symphony. We're going to all have a different piece of this story. And I'm not going to get lost in my own petty contraction. I'm not going to get lost of who wounded me and who insulted me, who didn't call me, who didn't let me know. No, I've got God's perspective. I've got Goddess's perspective. I see past, present, and future, and I see the infinite depth, and I feel you. I don't just feel me. I'm not lost in my own feeling tone. I feel myself. And then from that, I feel the whole thing. And I actually commit my outraged acts of love. Then I can open my heart again because I've closed the gap between my ability to feel the pain and my ability to heal the pain. I can heal the pain. My outrageous act of love becomes a droplet in a mighty river. and droplet meets droplet, and water meets water, and new coherences are created, and new currents are created, and new currents of eros value. And those currents of eros value come together like a mighty river and a mighty stream that cleanses reality, that transforms reality. Yes, it's prophetic. Of course it's prophetic. Maimonides wrote, we need to all be prophets together. But prophetic doesn't mean I'm making it up, I'm guessing it. It means I feel, right? I hear the whispering of the future, right? We see together the possibility of a world more beautiful than anything we could possibly imagine. And that world's already here waiting to be born, and it lives in me and it lives in you, because all of us already know that the one place that we feel alive and whole is when we are all in for all life, when we are powerful beyond measure, when we don't turn away. We feel it all. We feel every bit of the pain. And in the very same second, we feel every bit of the joy. And we say there's something worth giving up my life for. But if it's not for me to give up my life in this lifetime, because I'm not in the battlefield, I'm not in the actual physical battlefield, which most of us aren't, but some are. But what I'm going to do for sure is I'm going to live for it. I'm going to commit my life to living for the whole. And that will bring me this unbearable joy, and then translate into the most intimate personhood in my life in the most stunning and beautiful way. Well, there'll be no split between the personal and the political. There'll be no split between the personal and the cosmic. So last sentence, what it means is that every detail of the cosmos is alive in me. And no detail of my personhood is alienated from the cosmos. The personal and the cosmic are one. I feel the pain, all of it. And I stop and I feel the joy, all of it. I've got the God's eye view. I've got the God's eye feeling. So that's what we have to do. We have to actually become miniature divinities. That's what the lineage tradition said. We have to become Metatron. That's what we call Homo Amor. That's the new human. It's where the joy lives. It's where the delight lives. It's where the honor lives. It's where the integrity lives. It's in becoming divine. So let the God times roll. Let's do this together. Okay. That's just a little bit of a sense of where we are this week. Krista.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Marc Gafni. Wow, that was incredibly powerful. I can feel like I can breathe again. Like we've been on this epic journey for the last 3 weeks, facing in, looking towards, opening our hearts, letting our hearts be broken open. And I remember where we started together and where we are now. We can feel the difference. We can feel the hope. We can feel the good news while we're also willing to feel the pain. And I can feel the activation in my heart and in my body. And I know that we can all feel it right now. And then the question is, what am I going to do with it? What is that unique risk that is mine to take? While you're asking that question, we are having a couple of announcements. Again, I want to remind you that the next Unique Self workshop is on April 4th, and it is exactly about this topic and practicing that in your life. So the question, how do you respond to outrageous pain in the world with outrageous love? How do you take this perspective of God as compassion, as outrageous love? And so we're practicing that in that workshop on April the 4th. It's part of your community membership in Who We Must Become. If you're not a member, you definitely want to become a member right now, because that is the way to support this revolution and to become a part of it. So definitely your membership. Thank you, Mark. And so you'll get access to all the courses, to and also to these monthly workshops with Claire and David on Unique Self. So definitely sign up for that. Then second, the reminder, Mystery School is happening in April. It's less than a month away. You definitely have to buy your tickets right now. We have a couple of seats left, and those are for you, and for you. So make sure that you sign up and that you are actually there in the room together, because it's going to be wildly powerful and you don't want to miss that. So thank you for your time, and we'll see each other again next week.